Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. This is Beyond the Surface. Here, we have God-centered conversations about different topics and situations that students and young adults deal with. My name is Ryan. I'm the host of the podcast. Later today, I will be joined by my co-host, Ezer. Today, Ezer and I are going to talk about feeling alone and how to deal with loneliness. We are each going to offer a couple of situations where we felt alone and how we dealt with those feelings. Ezer and I hope that you guys get some benefit from today. We think that this is a really good episode and we're excited to share these stories with you. So now, let's jump into the conversation. Alright, Ezer, so today we are going to talk about loneliness or feeling alone.
Alright.
And this is kind of a topic that I'm excited to talk about, which is kind of weird because I feel like guys don't really talk about this, or people our age, not just guys, but people our age don't talk about this a ton. So I think this is going to be a good conversation that we've got going on today. I think we've got some good questions. Yeah, I'm excited. And everybody feels lonely at some point. I don't care who you are or what you've got going on in your life. You're going to feel alone at some point. So I hope that this conversation will help some people out. So Ezer, why don't you go ahead, kick us off. Describe a time when you felt lonely and how you overcame that time.
All right. So definitely my freshman year of college. I remember it was specifically my first semester in college, like probably September through December. It was without question the loneliest season I've ever faced. It's interesting because I was hearing it, in my high school youth group, freshman through senior year in high school, like a couple of messages on loneliness and how, man, in those seasons of loneliness, they'll come when you least expect it. And this is what you got to do. And you got to trust in the Lord and just be patient. And I had never experienced like true loneliness other than that season. Like up until that point, like I was like the star of my high school. I was really involved with our band and just really popular with everybody. And just even in church as well. Just I knew a lot of people. I always had plans every single weekend. You know me, I'm a people person,
Yep.
I love being around people. And now, like, out of nowhere, it's like all that high school fame and glory just, like, disappeared just like that. And now I know nobody. Nobody knows my name. All of my close high school friends, we all kind of went in separate directions, different universities, etc. And we don't have any time to hang out with each other just like we used to and just spend time and play video games, talk live, do what we love to do. A little bit of time, but not as much as I was used to. So I was not used to this, and I was really unhappy and shocked. And I was like, man, is this my life for the rest of my life? I was worried and everything, but little did I know, this would be probably the most important few months of my entire life. I didn't like it, but this would be the largest season of growth that I ever experienced. Because I was away from distractions. I was finally away from noise, and God used this to speak a lot of vision to me. It was actually really great. I picked up a habit of reading. I was diving into the Bible like I've never done before. I was just learning new stuff, new hobbies, just reading a lot. And, especially in my field of engineering, I was able to learn a lot from there, spend a lot of time with professors and other classmates whom I hadn't known. Drumming in particular, I really took a lot of time to practice extra with my drumming. And I feel like I really grew from that. And, I just feel like if you have a talent, it's your responsibility to steward that and to grow it and to become better.
Sure, yeah.
So I really enjoyed that time. And again, this is all like stuff that I couldn't do if I was busy with other people, which I loved.
Right.
But I couldn't do all this other time, like spending time with the Lord or getting better at drumming or learning more about engineering. And ultimately, I just had a lot of quality time just with Jesus.
Right.
And absolutely nothing beats that. Just spending time with Jesus. Nothing. You're just hanging out just like we're doing right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I learned more about myself in those few months than I ever did in my entire life. It was so important to me. It's a large part of where I am to this day. I don't know. Did you ever experience that kind of a freshman sort of a funk, I should say, or was it kind of a different moment for you?
No, it actually was. And when I was kind of reading over what you had put down for this question, it resonated with me because it was very similar situation. Like, I played sports in high school. I was the quarterback of the football team and captain of the football team that broke the wins record for our school.
Jeez,
so
wow.
we were very good. and I had a big role in that. I had a lot of good players around me. We had plenty of college football players on that team. I was not one of them, but I also, played baseball and was going to college to play baseball, and so there was lots of success in high school, and it was like kind of you're the big shot in high school, and you have tons of friends, always have plans on the weekend, either via sports or doing things with your friends, and you're living at home with mom and dad, so even when you're home, you're around people. And then you get to college, and it was a very lonely freshman year for me, definitely. And I think that your story is cool because you talked about how you used that time to kind of better yourself, and you spent a lot of time reading and improving and kind of getting into your engineering field and spending time with Jesus, and that's kind of where you ran to. And I did that a little bit when I got to college. So one of the things that I experienced was, everybody wanted to party and drink, and I was living on campus at that time, and I consumed zero alcohol, did no drug. I didn't drink until I was 21, at all, so none of that stuff. I wasn't into the party scene, and I was just super uncomfortable. And when, all my roommates and all my teammates and all my friends went out on Friday night, it was super hard for me just kind of staying in my apartment building and not doing anything. It was like that weekend after weekend, and I also had a tough major, so I was studying a lot, and my buddies weren't taking school quite as seriously as me, so I felt lonely during that time. And a little bit my freshman year, I grew with the Lord. I definitely did. I spent more time with him. I found my church over in Detroit, and got plugged in there and whatnot. But at the end of my freshman year, I actually jumped into a relationship with a girl, and it wasn't a relationship that was honoring to the Lord. And it was definitely something that I did out of loneliness. Yeah. When I came home in the summer, all my buddies had girlfriends. All my high school buddies had girlfriends. And so it wasn't, coming back to hang out with the high school buddies anymore because they were all off doing their thing with their girlfriends, right. Or they were, all hanging out together in a group, but I was the only single one. Yep. So it was kind of weird being in that situation, and so I ended up kind of getting into a relationship just with a girl that and it's not that there was anything wrong with the girl or, anything like that, but it just wasn't a relationship that I knew God wanted for me, and God was saying, okay, go for this kind of thing. Yeah. So I kind of jumped into that and looked for fulfillment of that loneliness and being alone in somewhere other than going to Jesus for it. And I can't tell you how many times I was in that relationship and you still just feel alone. You feel you're not heard. You don't, nobody sees what you're going through, even though, you do have a person that I was with her for a long time. And so even after, you get really close with somebody and that they still can't satisfy you like God can,
Absolutely.
And I felt lonely plenty of different times after that long-term relationship, and when it ended, I felt totally alone, not too long into being single again. I enjoyed singleness right at first, but then again, all my buddies are still in their long-term relationships. Yeah. So I felt just alone again. I didn't have somebody to talk to. My friends are still doing their thing with their girlfriends, and I'm by myself. But this time was very different because I actually got out of the relationship because I felt like God was saying, hey, we need to get a little bit more serious. And I just felt that tugging on my heart to kind of come back to him.
That's awesome.
So after that relationship ended, I committed to reading the Bible, the entire Bible, over the course of a year. And so that was what I did. And I missed a couple days. The book of Numbers, the book of Leviticus,
wow.
Let me tell you.
You read through it all.
I stuck it out. I did the whole Bible in a year. I missed a couple days, but then I would always come back and I would do double the next day, or I would make up for it on the weekends when I had more time.
Wow.
But yeah, Respect. I did it. Was super excited about that. Just that was an accomplishment that I wanted to set out, But I started to deal with God with my loneliness, and I said, hey, here's where I'm at. I feel like you're calling me to you, and so I want to press into you during this season. And I've grown so much over these past few years of being single even with all my friends, being in relationships and whatnot. And there are times that I have felt alone occasionally, but I've learned to kind of press into God and look to God in those times. And God has really made my purpose in life clear to me. And so that's what I'm chasing. I'm chasing my purpose of loving him and loving others. And I've been very fulfilled, very content, very satisfied with where I'm at in my life now.
That's so good, man.
Yeah, it's cool. I've been on the flip side of both situations, trying to fulfill my loneliness and my desires, with worldly things, and then also chasing God. And I've seen the difference. And so
totally,
it's pretty cool, how the difference has made me and changed me, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
So
I really appreciate you being so willing to share your story about that and to open up. And I know we'll kind of be getting into it a little bit later, but man, there's, you can still be in a relationship, or you can still be surrounded by people who love you and still feel lonely. Loneliness does not discriminate. It can come from people who are, have the most friends and the most love.
No, totally. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've been in a big group of people that I consider my friends, and you just feel so alone because you don't feel like anybody understands what you're going through. You don't feel like you can talk to any of those people about it. The conversations that are going on are conversations that either you're not interested in, or, maybe they're just not filling you up the way that you need in that season, and I talked to you a little bit about Deion Sanders. Was a little disappointed. Ezra didn't know who Deion Sanders was. He's won multiple Super Bowls, a Hall of Fame NFL player.
Oh my God, my friends know that I would not know any of this.
Yeah, no, that was funny when we were talking about that earlier. But Deion Sanders was a star, obviously. Like I said, won multiple Super Bowls, Hall of Fame football player. Like, this guy had it all. He had fame, fortune. He was married, had kids, and he talks about how he came to Jesus, and ultimately what happened in his life was he felt lonely. And it was interesting to me that he said he felt the absolute most alone when he was on the road for a football game, laying in a king-size bed with two women in the bed next to him.
Wow.
And he said he couldn't sleep that night because he felt so alone. He said that was rock bottom for me. I needed something else. So he eventually found the Lord and found fulfillment in that, and was able to heal some of his broken relationships and again find fulfillment in the Lord instead of in things of this world.
That's crazy, man. I'm telling you, man, this world, sometimes it's just the enemy, just the desires of this world that really end up just leaving us more alone. How can the world make us feel lonely? And what do you think social media has to do with all this?
Yeah, so I think that we often feel alone when we look at others and when we compare our journeys to somebody else's, right? We each have our own calling and we each have our purpose. And I think that when we look out and we see others that are maybe what we would consider ahead of us or living out a different purpose. So for me, I've got a ton of school in front of me still. I took 5 years to do undergrad. I'm taking a year off right now. And then I'm looking at 4 more years of school before I get to kind of actually start working in the field that I want to. Wow, so I've got a lot. I've done a lot of school and I've got a lot of school. And I'm seeing most of my friends now, and even like my brother and my sister are getting either to the end of their school or they're graduated and they're in their careers. A lot of my buddies are getting to the point where they're ready to propose to their girlfriends.
Wow.
Right. And so it's easy to look at that and it's easy to say, man, I'm behind in life. And that can a lot of times cause loneliness, because it's like all of my friends, the people that are close to me, are in this different season and I'm kind of behind. I'm here by myself, and it doesn't feel like we can talk to them or relate to them, And so I think we can get isolated by that.
Yeah.
And I think that social media just perpetuates that, and that we get to see that stuff and constantly be surrounded by it. And God calls us all to different things. God puts each of us in our seasons at the times that he does for a reason. And I think that we often lose track of that. And, the things of this world, obviously, when we start to feel lonely, come calling, relationships or, maybe partying and trying to be popular or, getting the next career, like always looking to the things of the world. And sometimes that can just make things worse, right? Like, for me, like I was saying, I want to get to my career. I want to be in my career. I want to start my life, as some people would say. But God says, no, my timing is perfect. And I've got you where I want you right now. And your journey doesn't look like anybody else's. Your timing doesn't look like anybody else's. And so, we've got to just hold firm to God in that, even when we're surrounded by, seeing these things on social media. And the other thing too that we got to keep in mind is that we only see the best parts of people's lives on social media, right?
There we
so
go.
We don't ever, see the journey that it took to get to that career. We don't see, the struggle that maybe goes behind the relationship. Like with every relationship, there are issues that go on, or there are things that you have to work through, and you don't get to see that on social media.
Right.
If you're into fitness and you follow like bodybuilders and stuff like that, like you don't get to see what they look like before they started lifting weights and how long it took to get.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we just got to keep in mind that life is a process. It's a long journey. God's got us where He wants us, and we're in the season of life that we are.
Come on now.
For a reason, right? So, and I know you kind of have some feelings similar about social media and whatnot, right?
Yeah. I think you were kind of hitting on this, but like isolation, I think what it does is that it kind of shuts our mouths. So we don't, open up to other people who to say that, hey, we feel isolated. When it turns out the other person that you are supposedly looking up to also feels that way too. Mm-hmm. So we just think, oh, they'll never understand me because their life is so great. It turns out they're going through the same thing that you are, but the enemy just wants us to stay silent and not to reveal this about ourselves. And
yeah, exactly. You hit on it. The enemy, that's one of the enemy's lies, is that nobody else knows what you're going through.
Right.
When people have either been there or they are there, and there are tons of people around you that I guarantee you, regardless of what you feel like your situation is that's causing you to feel isolated, there are people around you that would love to pour into you and help you through this season.
Yeah. The thing about social media, like, man, I've been taking some time just this year in particular just to really observe how much it sucks. Okay, when do we post whenever we're on Instagram or social media? We post at the best moments of our lives.
Yeah.
Post at the special occasions, the weddings, the parties, the spontaneous
nice views,
beautiful views, the spontaneous camping trip up north with the boys.
Yep, exactly.
That's when we're actually posting. But when are we checking? We're not going to check our social media when we're up on a spontaneous camping trip with the boys. We're checking our social media when we're here at home, just passing time. Mm-hmm. When we're alone, when we got nothing much else to do, so might as well check it. And we compare our current situation to the other people online who are posting at the best moments of their lives, and they're checking at the lowest moment of their lives. So it's this unfair game that we're doing it, where it's like, we're comparing our temporary loneliness to someone else's temporary high moment of their lives. It's stupid, really, because everyone is doing great. Everyone has some awesome lives, and God's doing amazing things in all of us. In the kind of the slower days, and in the really cool, awesome days. Every day has a purpose. So I think social media, it has good intentions, but personally, I've removed Instagram and Facebook from my phone. And I've only been checking it on desktop like once a week, and even then, I'm just kind of sick of it. It's like, I only use it to follow other churches and other, bands that I really like and whatnot. But I don't even look at like some of my own close friends anymore. Because if I'm, my close friends are the only ones who are really matter to me. So I just text them in the group chat,
Sure.
So that's kind of my social media for me, just direct message, or calling or FaceTiming. But
yeah, I've cut back on a lot of social media. I haven't like deleted it from my phone, but I'll go weeks, sometimes months. Shortly after Christmas, I took like a full month off and just kind of said, this is going to be my fasting for right now. I'm going to not do any social media, but I limit myself. I give myself, once a day, I check Instagram, and that's it. I've done a lot of unfollowing and making sure that the accounts that I follow are truly people that I know.
Yeah, because everyone's posting pictures naked of themselves,
Well, that's a whole nother beast.
You can cut that out from the. By the way, cut this.
We could tackle that in another podcast. So yeah. Anyways,
let's.
All right, we'll get back here. So, what's the root cause of our loneliness then? Why has this haunted our generation so much?
Oh man, I could take this direction, so many different routes, but I think probably my gut response is probably FOMO,
Mm-hmm.
but like on like a lifetime version, not just like, I mean, little things as well, like fear of missing out of going to a certain party or just living the life, but specifically like for like this season
Mm-hmm.
of like being young. So I feel like society and culture has really kind of romanticized, you know, our youth. And they said, you're only young once, so relish it and enjoy it. And, you know, this will never come again
Mm-hmm.
and everything. And, you know, they've kind of diminished the beauty of every season of life, you know, adulthood and married and kids and, you know, growing old and all that sort of stuff. You know, every season of life is beautiful. And man, God says, as long as there's breath in your lungs, God still has more for you. You know, so we have this idea that like this season that we're in right now is supposedly the high of our life and everything else is low. But like, man, your life doesn't have to be boring when you're working a 9 to 5, you know? You know, when you're 30 years old, 40 years old, 50 years old, when you have kids and whatnot, you don't have to be boring. Like life is happening right now. The question is, are you happening?
That's good.
You know, like, now is not, you know, the time now is awesome, but like, man, the time ahead of our lives, the rest of our lives is going to be amazing too. So
Yeah, that's cool. Kind of like what I was hinting at earlier. We always want to jump to that next thing. And there's always going to be another ladder to climb. And at some point you're going to get to a spot and you're going to be like, okay, well, what's next?
mm-hmm.
But I feel like we often just lose track of who we're called to be, right?
Yeah.
Like we get so caught up in wanting to be liked and wanting to be popular, which really is just, I don't know where that comes from. I don't know why we need the approval of people so much, but it's something that I struggle with. It's something that plenty of my friends struggle with. So many people struggle with this. I'm sure that everybody struggles with this.
Mm-hmm.
And that causes loneliness in and of itself right
Yeah.
there, is just wanting to impress people and needing the approval of people, because we're never going to get everybody's approval. We just aren't. And so, you know, we forget that God calls us to be different, right?
Yeah.
Like as Christians, we're supposed to live different kind of lives. And the world's never going to satisfy us. Like, we weren't designed to be satisfied by worldly things, right?
Yeah.
The only thing that can truly satisfy us is God and his love for us. And in the same token, we're never going to be enough for the world. No matter how good you are, no matter how many accomplishments you achieve in your life, the world is always going to say, you know, we want more. They may celebrate you for a moment, maybe even for a season, but at some point, somebody else is going to come along and they're going to outdo you. And you're going to be, unfortunately, you're going to be forgotten by the world.
That's so good.
But in Isaiah 43:1, it says, my God knows my name, right?
That's right.
And then in Romans, God says that we are his children. It says, I am a child of God. And God is not going to forget us.
That's right.
He's not going to leave us. He's not going to forsake us. He loves us. And he wants to be enough for us. And whatever season you're in, wherever you're at, God wants us to turn to him with our loneliness. And so if we allow these worldly desires that we're chasing to kind of creep in, then we're always going to feel lonely. We're always going to feel empty. And you know, our generation gets very loud with its ideas of
It really does.
of how to live your life and how to fight the idea of being alone, right? Like I mentioned earlier, you know, maybe getting a girlfriend, or, you know, the hookup culture, I think has really hurt people in this aspect as well.
It does.
I don't think, you know, that's a healthy thing for people who feel alone, obviously. You know, chasing success in order to get approval from other people. You know, our culture is very much pushing this on people, and I think that God's message often gets drowned out by these worldly ideas of how to fight loneliness.
I'm telling you, man, like, yeah, just look into God's word instead of just what society's telling you. Because society changes all the time. So it's, you know, one trend to the next trend. First it's TikTok, and now it's whatever else it'll be. But God's word never changes. God's word is the same. It's not outdated. It speaks to us today, right now, this season. God's word was written for 2020, you know, for young people like us. So
yeah, so I guess, I mean, we've kind of been spewing our advice a little bit, but like, what's your biggest advice for people feeling alone, and where's your place to turn?
Absolutely, yeah. Enjoy loneliness.
That's an
utilize
interesting
it.
answer there, Ezra.
Yeah. This is something that I would not expect myself to say. Someone like me, I love being around people 24/7. I will never get enough of it. And the season of loneliness I walked through, I already shared, but that was hard for me.
Mm-hmm.
But man, there are benefits to being alone.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can spend more time with God than you normally would. You can grow with Him. You can just hang out with Him the same way we're hanging out right now. Just hang out with God. Go with God to a certain place and just hang out with Him alone. I think I shared with you a little bit. Like, I just enjoy just going out to eat just by myself. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And I still do enjoy doing that too.
I told you I had movies alone, and you said that was too far.
Maybe, but
no, it's all right. It's all right.
I don't know, man.
Give you a hard time.
But like, you can read more of the Bible. I know you really torn to the Bible. Like, studying a certain book of the Bible you've never read before. Like, just seeing like, oh man, that's in the Bible. Just allowing God just to deal with impurity in your heart, and just really looking into yourself and say, okay, what have I not surrendered to God yet? All this stuff you can do when you're alone. Like, specifically in a season of loneliness, when you're like long periods of time are alone. You have nobody else talking to you.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can do this, and you can allow God just to speak to you, and just to mold you into the person that He's called you to be. And like even just like practical things, like you're alone, so why not travel somewhere? Flights are really cheap right now.
Yes,
So,
flights are cheap.
Yeah,
right now.
like man, if there's a certain landmark you want to travel to, go there and book a few nights over there one weekend, or if there's a conference or some sort of event, a nerdy thing you really like, go check it out. Some sort of a speech or something. I truly believe that our crafts and our talents and are really gifts from God. God's made each of us unique and different, and God's given us talents to steward and to use. And the story that comes to my mind, I always think of the master who gave his servants talents. Now, in this setting, the parable that Jesus was sharing, talents were a bag of cash.
Yep.
But let's actually think about these talents as actual talents, just like singing would be, or just like finance would be. Now we're called to steward these talents and to grow them, man. If the master gives you 2 talents, you better make it 4. Otherwise, you're considered wicked and lazy. So when God gives you a skill, like get good,
right?
Get better at it, and steward that gift and learn from it, and find people who are better than you, and to try to see how they do it, and figure out how you can use it to the best of your ability, and ultimately to use it to glorify God. So in my season of loneliness, I took a lot of time to get into details of playing drums and exploring other genres that I wouldn't normally have time with had my schedule been filled with other people. So it's like all this really practical stuff, like you can really, take this time to really grow yourself in a practical sense and in a spiritual sense.
Yeah, that's really interesting. You using the story of talents there as actual talents. That's a good spin. I like that you did that, but I think that's definitely a good thing. Like, when you've got the time, when you've got time alone, are we being productive with it? Are we using it wisely, or are we wasting it? Because
it's temporary.
Yeah.
It's not gonna last forever.
Definitely. You're gonna get to a point where you're gonna work a lot of hours. You're gonna have a family that you come home to and have to take care of. Things are gonna happen in life. Yeah. I've never thought of it like that it's temporary, but that's a good point.
And you don't want to spend this whole season trying to get out of it when God's actually trying to develop something in it. And now I want to be super sensitive too, because maybe you're listening to this right now and you're like, I've been doing that for years, not like a few months, for years. I want friends. I want a boyfriend. I want a girlfriend. Like I've been developing my craft, and I've been getting better at this and that, and trying all these new things. I've been traveling a lot all by myself. Dinners for one for days. I'm tired of that, and I understand.
No, and definitely, and I don't want to discount anybody's feelings. Feelings of loneliness are real.
They absolutely
I've been there. I've dealt with them. I still deal with them. They still come at me. I'm sure they probably still come at you. And we don't want to say that anybody's feelings don't matter. Feelings definitely matter, and so we totally get that.
Yeah. I promise God has ways of bringing people to you. As long as you remain proactive in trusting Him and investing into yourself, it's all going to make sense. God's going to bring people into your life, and it'll all just work out so perfectly. Just got to trust in Him. And I know that sounds so cliche, but you just got to trust in God, and it'll all work out. I don't know. What do you think about this?
No, I totally agree. I mean, my biggest thing, and that when you feel alone is to just press into God, right? Like God wants us to run to him, not from him, like I said earlier. And it's not an easy thing to do. I know that we're saying that, and sometimes you're going to be in these seasons or like you said, maybe you've been there and you feel like you've been doing that. But God speaks to us in ways that we don't understand. And, if you're consistent and if you're constantly taking these thoughts, these desires, and you're saying, God, I surrender them to you.
Mm-hmm.
I really do believe that he's going to speak into your life and he's going to work. And, it may not be in the way that you want it to be. Honestly, it might, you might have a crush on somebody and they don't feel the same way about you, but God may change your heart,
or their heart. You never know.
Or their heart, yeah, you never know. That God could definitely change their heart, but God may change your heart and give you different desires.
Yeah.
When we face challenges in life, we have a great opportunity to grow in our faith, and that's written all over the Bible. I mean, you can look at so many different, as I call them, titans in the Bible. If you look at Daniel, or you look at David, or so many of these other people, Esther, I'm going through the book of Esther right now and I'm diving in deep to that book. We face challenges in our life. And when we face challenges, that's an opportunity for us to grow in our faith. And so we don't want to waste, your pain or because we're busy complaining and being bitter about where we're at, the season that we're in, the feelings that we have, right? And so we want to press into God and trust him. And when we find ourselves alone, like I said, we can look for fulfillment with the things of this world, or we can run to the place that is ultimately going to fill us up, and that's God. David said, I turn to you and my cup runneth over.
Come on now.
So not easy, but I promise that if you run to God when you're feeling alone and when you're really struggling with this, or, struggling with any challenges, it can take you to places that you never would have imagined with your relationship with God and your faith and just your overall joy in life. Honestly, when you get through this season, you'll look back and you'll say, God forged me and made me stronger in this season. And I am grateful for that season.
Yeah.
I coming out of a season of severe anxiety that I've dealt with. And now that I'm looking back on it, I say, I wouldn't change anything about that, because I came out of that knowing God so much better than I did when I went into that season, right?
That is crazy. I've never heard anyone kind of say, I'm glad that happened.
It's the truth. Because of what I dealt with, I came to know God more and love him deeper than I ever have before, and it's all worth it.
Praise God.
So once you've kind of overcome a season of loneliness or being lonely, for a time, is that it? Have we won the battle?
So like you can be surrounded by family and friends every single day. You might still feel isolated. You can have the most amazing people, leadership, even a spouse, even fame, just like, what was his name?
Deion Sanders.
Deion Sanders. You can have all the attention in the world, yet still not be satisfied. I can personally say, that God's love satisfies you more than any love on earth ever will. God created us to be in a relationship with him. And,
yes.
And Jesus is more than enough for you. Like, even on your very best day, you are still not enough. But Jesus is always more than enough for you, even in your very worst moment. Like, it's crazy to think about it, but you can be hurting, you can be grieving, you can be depressed, you can be lonely, yet still find a reason to sing and be joyful, because God's grace it fulfills you like nobody else can.
Right. Ultimately, life's a marathon. There's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be season changes. Unfortunately, people come and go from our lives. That's just the way it goes.
Yeah.
I'm not friends with all of my friends from high school anymore. Same thing with college. When I graduated from college, I haven't kept in contact with every single one of the people that I would hang out with on the weekends at college. It just happened. So we're going to feel lonely more than once, probably more than twice in our lives, But each time is a new opportunity to experience God and his love in a new way. And some people are going to think, you guys are crazy. All you say is turn to God when you're lonely. And yeah, it might be a little bit crazy, but I am telling you this because I've I've tried both routes. I've tried to find fulfillment from, things of the world. And I've also turned to God and said, you know what? This is what I'm dealing with. I'm just going to be honest where I'm at.
Come on now.
And I want to know you more. Speak to me as I read your word. And I'm telling you, the second option is so much better.
It works.
It's so much better. Yeah, it works. Exactly. Knowing God is the best decision that you can make.
Come on now.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. We hope that you enjoyed the episode today. If you did, feel free to subscribe to us on iTunes or YouTube, or follow us on Spotify so that you don't miss out on our weekly episodes. Also, Ezra and I would really appreciate it if you would share this with anybody that you think may enjoy this podcast or benefit from the conversation. Lastly, Ezra and I would love to connect with you, so if you have comments, feedback, or questions for us, we've got our email linked in the description, so we would love for you to shoot those our way. Or if you're listening by way of YouTube, go ahead and comment down below. Ezra and I hope that you all have a great week as you go and love God and love people.